watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello, and welcome to GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm your host, Shiloh Sanders. We have traveled to the DeSoto County's museum to see its remarkable Holocaust exhibit, Yes, Mississippi. This exhibit ranges from interactive pictures and holograms of the lost children to artifacts that were discovered in the Dead Sea. You may even be surprised to learn that this exhibit was created by middle schoolers who aren't Jewish. I sat down with teachers Melissa Wheeler, Suzanne Powell, and their former student Cooper Geinter to find out how a penny sparked an idea. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
So it really is hard to believe that a penny started this whole project. Can you tell us about the Pennies Project?
Yes. Well, in 2009, when we were teaching together at Horn Lake Middle School, we had surveyed the students to see what interest and what they would want to have a unit of study. So when the children began researching and looking at all the different topics that were there, World War II came up, and so as they continued to research, they read about the Holocaust. Some of the children were angry that this was something that they had never even heard about. So as we began to talk, and that became the topic that the majority of them wanted to study and read about, it ended up being the one, we started talking about what is a project and something we could do with students. So when you think of a penny, there's no value. People would walk over them, they drop them, they'll say, I don't need that change. And so the idea came from Diane McNeil, who had had a relationship with many of the Jewish families in Memphis. And so we had talked with a rabbi, and we had asked if there was someone who could help us have a Holocaust speaker come and share with our students so they could really experience like the real life and see it from their viewpoint. So we met and talked with Diane, and we mentioned having a speaker, but we would also like to have a project. She thought about the penny, and she said, when you think about it, there is no value. And why don't we, talk about this idea? Y'all go back and ask your principal about collecting 1.5 million pennies, which we did, and we're very thankful he said yes to. He first said, is it something you think you can do? And we teachers know we can do it. Now, it took a little longer than we had imagined, but, we did it. We did it.
So how many students were involved in the project?
How many did you?
Well, I was an English teacher at the time, so I had anywhere from 25 to probably 30 kids in the classroom and 3 classes a day. And this was 3.5 years. I don't do math, so a lot. And
about 9 kids each year.
Yeah, and they were just, and then you had how many?
I had 40 each year, and then the 8th grade, I taught 7th grade Spotlight.
Right.
And the 8th grade, which is our gifted program, and the 8th grade had about as many children, so 80 and about 170.
Wow.
Yes, that first year.
The first year, right.
So after all the pennies were collected, how did the idea of the exhibit come about?
I think actually we had that in mind from the beginning. It was kind of a blurred idea. We didn't want to use the pennies to like cash in for anything. We wanted to have some kind of memorial. We had decided on the 1.5 million for the children because collecting 11 million for all who perished in the Holocaust was a little adventurous even for us. So we focused on the kids, and we knew we wanted to do something with the pennies other than just, hey, we raised this money. We didn't want to see it as money. We trained the kids, for lack of a better word, to see them as children. And so the sculpture came from connections and conversations.
With Diane as well. And these children would make posters. We would have contests at school between grades, and they would make posters that said, dig in your couches, get your pennies. They would not step over a penny on the street. I mean, to them, truly every penny represented a life that should not have been lost.
Right.
So what was the original goal of the Unknown Child Holocaust exhibit, and has that goal changed throughout the years?
Well, the original goal was for the children to see the vast extent of what was lost during the Holocaust. All of the children that have perished along with their families. These children should have lived. And so as we studied that, it was the same. It was children remembering children.
Right.
And so the children were collecting the money, and then, every single penny to them represented a child.
That's really great. So from concept to completion, how long did it take for this exhibit to get up and running?
Well, the two of us and Diane McNeil met 14 years ago today to have our first conversation about this project. So it's been a wild 14 years.
That's when that began, yes. Well, see, Connor came on. We thought we could finish the project in that first year.
Oh, right. We thought we could do this.
But Diane worked with a homeschool group, the parents, the women in Collierville, and of course talked with the children. The parents went home and talked to their kids, and they wanted to join us. That is the reason that we were able to accomplish this in 3.5 years, is because of Connor's family and the students that were part of the GHS-SC with them.
It was amazing. It was a coming together of public school kids and homeschool kids for one amazing purpose. It was incredible.
Yes.
So when you walk through the exhibit, what is something that you will hear or something that you will see?
Well, it's telling the history as you begin from the walking, as you enter, you're going to see a map with the concentration camps, and then you're going to see pictures of the homeschool students that helped us, the GHS-SC. They've been just incredible, are continuing to be with us today, just working just as hard to help us bring this to fruition. And then you're going to see the history of what happened in 4 different parts as you go all the way through. And it's just incredible. And then you leave with a feeling of hope. Instead of giving up, when these survivors were here, and it's amazing what they've all accomplished. They didn't feel sorry for themselves and, oh, poor pitiful me, and look what I went through. No, they bettered themselves, and they have tried to make the lives of others better because of what they went through.
So Connor, when you first heard about the Pennies Project, why did you want to involve yourself?
Well, actually, my 2 older siblings they were involved in it before I was, so I kind of always tagged along. So I've kind of always been in it. But also, like she said, that they were viewed as worthless, like the pennies were worthless. So just kind of to raise awareness for that, because we don't want history to repeat itself.
So this exhibit, it leads to a stunning but heartbreaking sculpture of a child. Can you tell us what that sculpture represents?
Yes. What we have when you first look at it is you're looking at a child reaching into a crematorium, and it's an exact replica. As the child is reaching through, on the back side of it, you've got a butterfly for freedom. You have got the promised land. It is a statue of hope. Rick Winnicke is very, very talented. He has got many statues that he has created for the Holocaust, and it was an honor to have him make this for us. Yes. Actual pennies that were collected were sent to him, and he used those in the sculpture. You've got the railroad tracks with the car that was deporting the children, taking them to the gas chambers.
So the Unknown Child exhibit is very raw and heartbreaking. What was the message that you wanted the children to know as they came through the museum?
Every child matters. That was it. We taught our kids that a penny was symbolic of a child, and that child's not worthless. We had pennies that we had taken out of fountains that had mold and who knows what on them, and we scrubbed them clean to prove their worth. And so I know that the kids that we worked with originally know it's a child, and every child is worth it.
So what has been the feedback from visitors as they see the Unknown Child exhibits?
Many of them, of course, are somber. There are so many people who did not know and what actually happened. We've had people say to us, why would you want to teach something that's so sad? And why are you not wanting to teach something that's more exciting and fun? And I'm like, that's not history.
History is not pretty.
And what he said, we never want history to repeat itself. It's heartbreaking.
So this undertaking was so large, a foundation had to actually help you guys with the cost. What was the foundation and how were they helpful with the cost of the exhibit?
Okay, well, what actually has occurred is that us from the project have
It became
its
own foundation.
Its own foundation. Yes. Yeah, it's not an outside foundation helping us.
Right.
The project, and I can see, you can tell we help each other out here. Help me with some words. But the foundation was built from the project itself, the Unknown Child Foundation.
So I heard that there is a memorial that should be in the works. Is there anything that you can tell us about the memorial, or is it a secret? What's happening?
Well, we are very, very blessed to have Doug Thornton, a wonderful architect, very talented, that lives here in DeSoto County. And of course, everything that has worked together and been woven for this project has just been incredible. But Diane McNeil, our board president, had met Doug, and then she ended up meeting his wife later at a different event. And the wife, Precious Michelle Thornton, is one of our board members as well. And she said, I know my husband will want to be a part of this project. He had just read Dietrich Bonhoeffer's biography, and that just had happened. And then once he was reintroduced to the project, he said, I want to be on board. I want to do something for y'all. So he has designed the memorial. He has designed what we have here. We're so blessed to be at DeSoto County Museum and have a temporary exhibit here.
Yes.
And we just want to encourage people to please come see it. We would love for teachers to bring school groups. This museum itself is a hidden jewel. And then to be able to be here and have this exhibit as a part of it has just been unbelievable.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and telling us about this wonderful exhibit.
Thank you
for having us. We appreciate what you're doing.
We'll be back with more of the DeSoto County's Museum.
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
I'm your moderator, Brandon Sewell, coming to you live from the campus of Germantown High School.
So GHS-TV tries to model a real working station.
I really thought it was cool when I first started studio and all the opportunities that it was able to provide for me.
That would be 36 out of 36.
It's a rigorous class that demands a lot from students.
At times you are going to be thrown into the fire to where you're just going to have to figure it out yourself.
Which is really great because then we gain more knowledge. Our teachers will give us how to start, but then we're left to make up the whole entire process.
It just seems to me it's not enough space in the beginning. If it's not, let's figure out what we can do.
They can be a producer, they can be a director, they can work graphics and learn audio, they can go out and shoot field reports.
Akila, back to you.
And it's a challenge to throw them into the environment and say, here's a camera, go out and record this interview and some B-roll. But those are the challenges that grow students to do bigger projects.
Welcome to Red Devil Newsbeat.
In GHS-TV, we have a variety of shows. We have Crosstalk.
Hello and welcome to a new season of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk.
We have Insider, which is all about Germantown.
Welcome to GHS Insider, the show that's all about the G.
Cut to one and Q Talent.
Wake up, Germantown. It's Wednesday, April 5th. I'm Colin Ewing.
Some things that I've learned from this class is that how to work as a team.
We learn how to communicate better with people.
Something I'll take with me from in the future is their slogan, check, double check, and check again.
There's so many different things you can do here. I would say take risks. Push yourself further than you think you can go, and we will help guide you there.
Go Red Devils!
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. We are in DeSoto County visiting the DeSoto County's Museum Unknown Child exhibit, but there is so much more that we would like to explore. Joining me now is the museum's director, Robert Long. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It is my pleasure.
So there is a lot to talk about in the museum, but I want to know, why was it important for us to have a museum in DeSoto County?
You know, history is important for all kinds of reasons. History gives us perspective. It also teaches us the successes that we've had in the past, also the failures as well, the mistakes. And oftentimes we learn as much from the mistakes that we've made as we do the triumphs and successes. So as a faster growing county as DeSoto County is, to a lot of us it was just so imperative to examine how we got to be such a fast growing county, who were the individuals who made the county what it is today, and how we can best preserve that rich and diverse history that we have.
So the museum dedicates its name to the county's namesake, Hernando DeSoto. Where does that come from, and who is he?
Yes, indeed. Hernando DeSoto was a Spanish explorer who came here from Spain in 1541. And he came here in search of gold, did not find any gold, but goodness, what he found would put us on the map forever. He is the first European ever to lay eyes on the mighty Mississippi, which is the North American continent's largest waterway. And so much of our history, so much of our music, our literature is shaped on the Mississippi River, and DeSoto will forever be legendary for that discovery.
So this museum is also dedicated to the first African-American sheriff. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Jefferson Evans was elected sheriff right after the very bitter and divisive American Civil War. What is important to note that Jeff Evans was elected, he was not appointed. He was elected by black and white and any Native American individuals who at that time were on the voter rolls. And that's important. Jeff came to Mississippi. His ancestors came from the Virginia area. He was the carriage driver as a young man for the local plantation. Mr. Doggett was the owner of the property. But from all accounts, he was not only a well-educated man, he was well-liked. Very affable gentleman who really tried to usher in the true spirit of the meaning of Reconstruction, which was rebuilding America after the American Civil War, which was a huge feat. And he was elected during a very tumultuous time in our history. He only served one term, and we know the lessons from history that in 1876 the federal troops were pulled out of Mississippi and the South. And so that gave rise to Jim Crow, to the Night Riders, to the Ku Klux Klan. And sadly, a lot of the gains that were made by African Americans during that time would not be regained till almost a century later. But he stands above most individuals in that period right after the war as one who tried to unify not only the county, but unify the state of Mississippi as well.
So in the museum, you have some artifacts that were from the Civil War era. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Certainly. We have the distinction of having artillery shells from the first hour of the first battle of the entire American Civil War at Fort Sumter in 1861. How did we get those? We had a once young soldier who witnessed the early stages of the battle. He knew he was witnessing history, and he had the forethought and wisdom to pay the railroad freight to ship them to his farm first in South Carolina and then on to Mississippi after the family made that long pilgrimage here in the days after the war. But we have those. No other museum has intact shells, and when I say intact, we have a fossilized, intact artillery shell. And when I say that, the folks kind of scoot back when I tell them it's intact. It is fossilized. We've had our attorneys and our insurance people look over it. But to say that, the fact that we have intact history from that crucial first battle of the American Civil War is just amazing. A small museum like ours would have that. So it draws people from all over. Like I said, the Smithsonian has wanted that. Also the Citadel in South Carolina. But it's staying right here. It is really the crown jewels of our museum, if you will, along with many other things as well.
So the Memphis Railroad and the Trolley Museum gave you a very unique item. Can you tell us about that?
Well, absolutely. We have several items actually from the Railroad and Trolley Museum. Sadly, they were obliged to move out of their headquarters there in Memphis. And so much of our early history from Hernando all the way up to Memphis is interlinked, from railroad transportation to horse and buggy in the day. It would take sometimes 2 days to make it, depending on the weather and the roads. But there's always been this link between Hernando and Memphis. The old Hernando Plank Road stretched all the way from the Tate DeSoto County line all the way up to, I believe, 3rd Street in Memphis. And so it has always been a linkage to the greater, wider world, if you will. So there's really not really a single item other than the fact we do have a 1938 working Lionel train, which is in its 80s now, and it still runs. And the children of today are just delighted when they see that. I think kids instinctively love trains. I love trains. I'm not a kid anymore, but I love trains, and it transports us, I think, instantly. We see the smoke, we hear the whistle, and all of us are transported back to the time when we were children watching a train go by.
So let's move on to some music. Mississippi is responsible for producing some of the most amazing songwriters and performers, including Elvis Presley. So what can visitors see when they walk through the museum?
Absolutely. Well, you know, Elvis, on the weekends, stayed in DeSoto County quite often. Memphis claims Elvis. He spent the large part of his adult life at Graceland when he wasn't touring. But at his heart, Elvis was a Mississippi boy. He was born in Tupelo. So when he came to DeSoto County and bought his ranch in 1967, it gave him a link to his early childhood. Elvis and his entourage would come down to DeSoto County, and they would ride horses, they would ride their motorcycles. Elvis would show up at the local diner and order up a hamburger or an ice cream cone. He was well liked. There are many stories of how Elvis interacted with the local townspeople. And so it's important that we honor that legacy. So here at the museum, what we try to do is bridge all the different cultures and bring them together under one roof, whether it is African American history, Native American history, our Jewish history, our Jewish history room that we explore. We feel that by doing that, we really open the doors to the world. And we do have people here from all over the world, and it's just a wonderful thing to see.
There are so many interesting artifacts and stories. What are some of your favorites?
My goodness, stories are really the hallmark of what our museum is about. Everything in here, of course, has worth, but it would really just be stuff if it were not for the stories that are associated. Jerry Lee Lewis's piano, of course, is an item that I like. I also like the fact that we have the artillery shells from Fort Sumter. In our veterans room, we have artifacts of everyday men and women who sacrificed on behalf of really the free world to ensure freedom. And so I like the fact we have duffel bags, we have uniforms, shaving kits, ration cards, things that would have been in their everyday lives that when they went far from home, these objects represented the fact that they were on a mission to preserve freedom for all the world.
So the museum recently received a grant. What will that money go towards?
Well, the grant that we received, we were very honored to have a bequest from the Bessie Chisholm estate that will enable us to really better tell the story of pioneers in this county, and not only pioneers, but pioneering women. Miss Chisholm was a very enterprising individual. who really was at the forefront of rearing just a whole network of nieces and nephews and having a major impact on future generations in this family. Many future leaders would be born. And so we're going to tell that story. We also got a grant from the Humanities Council, which enabled us to have some interactive video because we're updating our presentation. Today, in the 21st century, people like static displays, but they also like to hear the voices of people. They like to hear music. And so we have used large portions of that grant to create interactive kiosks, if you will, for our visitors that come through.
So if people want to come here, how much will it cost them?
It is free. You can't beat that. It is free. We do take donations to keep any kind of museum afloat in our day and time. It takes donations, but we pride ourselves on the fact that we provide a very immersive experience at no cost. And that's important. We're investing in the generations of tomorrow by learning about the past. And it is that linkage between past, present, and tomorrow that is really the dynamic that keeps this museum so vital to our community.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Long, for joining us and giving us so much information.
My pleasure.
I would like to thank Susan Powell, Melissa Wheeler, Cooper Ginter, and Robert Long for speaking with us about the Pennies Project and the Unknown Child exhibit. I hope that you will take the short drive from Memphis to see this wonderful museum. For more information on the museum, visit DeSotoMuseum.org. I'm Shiloh Sanders, and from all of us at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.